this regular board meeting to order. Today is Thursday, May 14th. It is 9:37. We are at the CUC conference room on the third floor of the Joe Tan Dan Dan building. Riley, if you could go ahead and call roll, please.
Chairman Han Perez.
Here.
Vice Chair Donald Brown.
Running late.
He's excused, but he'll be here. He's coming a little late.
Lee. Treasurer Rufo Matas.
Here.
Secretary Roseman Sword.
Here.
Senior Chair Franco Loloman.
Excused.
Member Simon Sanchez.
He will be joining virtually.
There he is. There he is. Preston.
Director Rebecca White.
Here.
Director Maria Mongolia.
Here.
Thank you. We have 6 members present,
Okay,
and then
so-
1 coming in later.
Okay, so with 6 members present, we do have enough members to have quorum for today's meeting, so then we will go ahead and proceed. At this time, I'd like the members to, you have your agenda in front of us. Can I get a motion for the adoption of today's agenda?
So moved. Here.
There's been a motion, do I have a second?
Seconded.
And it has been seconded. Any discussion or amendments to today's agenda? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Motion carries. Let's go to D for preliminary matters. In front of all the members, you have the minutes for the April 9th regular board meeting and the minutes for the April 23rd special board meeting. I think it's in your packet. I believe everybody's had the opportunity to review them. Can I get a motion for the adoption of the April 9th regular board meeting minutes and the April 23rd special board meeting minutes?
Motion to adopt both minutes.
There's been a motion to adopt both meeting minutes. Do I have a second? And it has been seconded. Any discussion? If no discussion, those in favor of adopting the regular board meeting minutes of April 9th and the special board meeting minutes of April 23rd, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Motion carries. We will then move forward in terms of correspondence. Everybody has correspondence in your meeting packets. Does anybody have any questions or concerns or any issues in regards to any of the correspondence that has been given to the members? If not, we will proceed on to section 2 of the agenda, public comments. At this time, we will open up the floor for any of the public to go ahead and speak. And I just would like to ask if you could just state your name for the record. And floor's open.
Del Benson here again. I want to reiterate some questions that I know, I hope at some point they're answered. And that's, it'd be interesting to note how much actual cost of operations of fuel and the generators and maintenance and all that versus each aspect of CUC, comparing to what their flat cost would be if we had the solar project that came in. I still want to challenge the premise that I've heard stated and read that you're still exploring other options. I don't believe it, and I wouldn't believe it because the direction is all pointing to solar, and for a 20-year contract on solar, I think this would be so detrimental to the CNMI ratepayers for a long term and any development on the island, because high utility costs are what is going to sink us, period. And if we had better rates, we might be able to attract businesses that normally wouldn't come. Again, I want to reiterate that. I just wish that there would be some open forum that you would discuss all this, but it doesn't seem to be what CUC is geared towards or is interested in. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else from the public for public comments? If no one else has any public comments, we will now close public comments and move to section 3 of our agenda, management reports, and we'll start with the executive director's report. Jeff?
Yes, thank you, Chairman Perez and board members. We have been very busy with the restoration process, but right before the typhoon hit, we had another major impact, and that was the rise in fuel. That will still affect us going forward, and we have to address it tomorrow, we have a meeting with the governor. So we will cover that. And I asked Riley to prepare a PowerPoint presentation to highlight some of our recovery efforts. If this will be the right time to show that?
Sure, if it's part of your presentation for your report.
Okay,
I don't see
yeah.
any problem with that.
Yeah, staff has been, getting power on, restored, water. They've been addressing about 100 leaks per day, since, the restoration, efforts, started. And some of these may have been prior to the storm, but now they're easier to see because the vegetation's all blown away. But a lot of the leaks were caused by uprooted trees that ripped the roots ripped the lines out of the ground. So that affected our recovery effort because they had to, as they extended the water, they had to make those repairs as they were going.
Well, while we're waiting to pull that up, do any of the board members want to address any particular issue with our executive director before we actually pull up this presentation?
I'd rather wait for the presentation.
All right. And then we can do the Q&A afterwards.
Yes.
All right. Kevin, you were saying you're meeting with the governor tomorrow or CPUC tomorrow?
Oh, I'm sorry.
CPUC.
It's CPUC in the morning and the governor in the afternoon.
Okay.
Sorry, Director, I don't know why it's not showing
That's
up
okay.
here, but I already sent it to 17.
No problem.
It's okay, we can wait.
Let me see if I can share it.
I'd asked Riley this morning to prepare this. I kind of put her on the spot, so I apologize for that. And I woke up about 5 o'clock this morning and thought this would be good so you can visualize it. And the efforts that across the board that our staff is going through, and though the power crews, we got 49 or 50 some from Guam Power Authority assisting us. They're working 7 days a week, 16 hours a day. They love their work. I actually got to
Please
share a dinner at the Crown. They were celebrating one of the engineers' birthday, and seeing them in action is very impressive. Same way with our linemen; they're all cut from the same cloth. They really enjoy helping them bringing the community the power back, getting it restored.
So, I'll explain it to you. So from the first slide, we have FEMA, so this is Brandon and Israel and Joyce. They're here with Wanjing, Kano, and the other teams at the power plant on site, assessing the damages of, what happened at,
Hold on, Riley, hold on. Can you guys mute?
Is that Simon?
yeah.
So once you get the pipe going in a filter, and we'll change it, and you're saying that we'll probably change the dash, right? Yeah.
Hello?
Okay.
I think she can get them.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, so they were doing damage assessments, on the infrastructure there at the power plant, and then right here we have, just our power T&D team, who are doing the repairs and, making sure that our transmission and distribution system is up and running after the storm. So this is all for Saipan and Tinian and Rhoda. So this one here is from Kobler, this one's from Rhoda. This is Rhoda, oh no, this is Tinian, Rhoda, Saipan, so, yeah. We do have more pictures that they were sent over by their managers and their admins and supervisors. So again, we do have like some pictures here from Saipan, Tinian, and Rhoda, together with the Guam Power Authority crew who flew in on May 1st and May 2nd, or May 2nd and May 3rd, right? And then here, so we did have our forward team come in. Miss Maria, I can't remember the day, I believe it was May 1st or May 2nd. Oh no, they came in like last week.
Came in a week before.
A week before, so like maybe the last week of April.
April 28th.
Yeah, so one fun fact about these guys is that they were here during Super Typhoon, Solar, and U2, and now they're back here again to help us, which is really awesome. And then a week later, we had the first batch of the T&D team who came over, and then we had the second batch come in, so that's the total. So there was like 25 for the first, and then 24 for the second batch, plus the first forward team. So that's like a total of 55 people from Guam Power who came over to help and assist us. And then we do have our water side, so the storm didn't just destroy, the T&D side, it also destroyed a lot of water pipes, and so that's why we were out of water for a few days. So we do have our crew working day and night to make sure they restore power, and so we do have these pictures here to prove it. So here you go.
What tank is that one?
So this is actually the Cadman tank, the 1 million gallon tank there at Cadman. It was actually filled with water, but then the storm, as you can tell, destroyed it. And in the picture, you can still see it's like wet around the area because it was still leaking when we went there to go take pictures.
Is that what caused the road to open up?
That was another reservoir. The roof
Good
blew off.
point, though.
Oh, yeah?
The tank.
Wow.
And then so like our wastewater services, like after the storm, it wasn't disrupted, but the guys there at wastewater still made sure to maintain the system and keep it running for, I believe, for public health and proper sanitation regulations. And again, we do have our wastewater crew here maintaining the systems, make sure everything's running. And then these are just pictures from Tinian. So last week we actually had an auger truck in Tinian, but it was like not operational, and they had it fixed just last week. And so this whole week from Monday to Friday, it's been in operations. And so as of yesterday, so in Tinian they had 111 power poles fall down, but then as I guess they were able to bring up 11 back up, and they're still working on that till the end of this week. And I believe if they need to extend their stay, they will with the approval of the director. And then they also had FEMA bring in a 56 kilowatt generator. So this is powered to the substation at the Tinian Power Plant. And this is what helps, keep the operations running at the power plant and make sure that everybody's able to charge all their equipment and have the guys work on restoring power as quickly as possible. And then again, we have CUC Road. I can't forget CUC Road. So these guys are already like 100% restored. But they are really awesome, they're really great. We do have guys from Rhoda who flew over to Tinian, right?
Mhm.
And then
Second.
Saipan.
Both one.
The power crew went to Tinian,
Yeah, both I said.
Oh yeah.
yeah,
Road.
and water here.
Yeah. And so this is your CUC team, and these are the guys who are on the field working every day since the storm, making sure that all services are back and up and running smoothly, as safely and efficiently as possible. So, if you have any questions, you can ask them.
Go on, Riley.
Thank you,
want me
Riley.
to presentation, thank you, David.
So let me start. So, Kev, we know that this is a recovery effort. We know that normally we front the cost and then we get reimbursed. So all of the GPA assistance, are we paying for everything?
Yes.
So what kind of financial impact is that on CUC? In terms of what we're paying for GPA's assistance? And how quickly do we anticipate that we could file for reimbursement to get the funds back?
We have started a process of filing, and they have approved 100% reimbursement in the first 90 days.
Okay, hold on a second. Because you have to remember, I'm doing this whole process for Tinian, so let's make sure you qualify what you say. It's approved if everything is documented correctly.
Yes.
So do we have somebody in CUC that's capturing all the documents to make sure that is being documented correctly, so we could qualify for the 100%?
Yes.
Who in our team is in charge of that?
Betty, can you address that on, I know all of us work diligently to make sure all the
Right.
proper forms are done.
So now the question is whether it's done correctly and we're gonna be able to capture everything, because I've been through this drill before, it's not my first rodeo. I know exactly what happens, right? We activate, we have people help, and of course, what our staff has done, what GPA has done, we applaud them, absolutely. But now, as management and as a board, it's our job to make sure that we get the reimbursements. This is our responsibility,
Yeah.
right? Staff puts the power back, puts the water back, now we have to make sure that we do our job to capture it. The fact that within the 90 days, it could be 100% qualified for reimbursement, well, first things first, I want to, make sure that everything that we're spending is qualified for reimbursement. And I would like to know who's in charge of that process, and are they communicating directly with the GAR and with FEMA to make sure that's captured? I know this is your first time doing this recovery on this island. I don't know your experience in terms of this, but in past storms, there's a lot of stuff that falls through the cracks or is not reimbursable. I don't want to find out later down the line that right now we're talking about everything is 100% reimbursable, and then we get to a point we say, oh, we only able to capture 50% of it. My belief is that issue has to be addressed now. We have to make sure that we have the proper people in place to make sure that we capture every dollar. So first things first, how much are we paying GPA for assistance? And again, I have no problems with them. GPA is a great partner and everything like that. They respond, we respond when they need help. But obviously now we have to talk about the finances for CUC and make sure that we can afford this situation. So let's delve into that a little bit and give the board an idea of how this recovery is impacting the board and our financial situation.
Yeah, we have been working with FEMA.
Okay.
They have a team here to help us ensure that we file all the paperwork correctly. And we put all of their requests through to the DAR, who then has to approve of it before we proceed. That's one of the checks and balances that we have. And Betty, can you speak a little bit more on the record keeping?
We don't have to put it into the car, we go directly to Israel, who's from FEMA here. So we submitted everything to him. We've been working with him. I've tasked Joanne to come in sooner than when we recalled employees. So I've tasked her because Israel for a couple of weeks. He's actually still on. We had a deadline to meet, so what we did was we projected and estimated all the costs that we could in the restoration process within the 90-day period, because then that would be 100% reimbursable. So we wrote up all the projects, and we sat with some of the managers and said, we need to see the scope of work, and we submitted that to Israel. It came out to be about 72 million for the 90-day period. Israel went through it, recalculated it, and he said we did at 75. But the 50%, it's only to process for a 50% advance reimbursement. How advanced is that? I don't know, because we don't have the time and we're going to start that decision. But he did submit it, we had the deadline, he submitted it, it's just a matter of waiting for that approval. We do vote for the bar and ask if it's qualified for the headquarters. On whether or not, also that can happen, because there's no time track. As for the other projects, are gonna take longer than 90 days. We are also preparing already for that. We had a meeting 2 days ago with the PAO staffing that came over to talk about what they expect us to submit, and that the sooner we submit it, the sooner we could probably get category F approved. Right now, category F is not open, but if we start submitting, we feel they said there's an amount that once we reach, it's likely category F will get opened up. Once category F is approved, we can start drawing funds for those projects that are, for mitigation, for example, concrete pole replacements, damaged fencings, things like that, the tank replacements. And so all of that is in the works. At this time, though, there's no timeline of when to expect the reimbursements. And one concern is that we're still waiting for your U2's reimbursements. Yeah, it's not 100% yet. For Typhoon U2, though, the difference could be that the categories didn't open up until years later. So it's not like we submitted it in 2019 or after the storm. Some of the categories opened up 3-4 years later, and then we submitted for those projects. And then another, so like labor was the last one. That's category Z. And that was submitted the last, which is part of this $9 million that we're waiting for reimbursement. So the 90-day emergency period, we could probably get that sooner than the rest of the restoration labor costs. But, it's the timeline, and we have no assurance of when it's going to come. So at this point, we would be dipping into our own coffers, which is already earmarked for our obligations, payroll, purchase orders, contracts, and other fixed costs that we have.
So then the question is, how do we manage this moving forward? So here we are today. We know that there's a declaration that if everything's filed properly within the first 90 days, it's 100% reimbursable. But we don't know when the reimbursements are going to come. And from our past history, they don't come right away. So we're spending money today. We all know at this table that our FAC rate is far below what it costs for us to buy fuel. So when you put all of these things together, what is the approach, or what is the recommendation, or what is the plan for management in order to make sure that we have sufficient cash to do the recovery and our basic operations? I think it all boils down to that. And unfortunately, we have the fuel situation. At the same time, we have the recovery situation. It's a horrible situation, but we have to figure out how to manage our way through it. So I guess the question is that what is the anticipation of how much money that we have to front for this recovery, which includes the recovery pay, and what are we doing to reduce these expenses so it doesn't affect our basic operations? That's what I really want to know. Because when we had that first fuel increase, even at that point, we knew that if we had basic operations, without the increase in the fact rate, we probably only had about 3 months left of operations. Right now, you throw on top of that the recovery. So my question is, why am I not getting called on a daily basis saying that we are in a critical financial situation and we recommend, these measures in terms of how to curtail our expenses? Unless there's something you guys know that I don't know. So I think it's fair to let the board know what exactly are we doing to, one, manage this recovery, but at the same time, making sure that we still have the ability to operate CUC. And Kevin, you're running the show, so you gotta give us some guidance on this.
Okay. Yeah, we have scaled back the amount of people on premium, and we prepared a memo for recommendation for the board. We feel that any policy change needs to come at the board level.
Okay, so let's talk about that. So unless I'm wrong, my understanding is you have full discretion in terms of the recovery plan, right? Who you pull in for recovery pay. So I don't know if it requires a board decision because the policy is giving you full discretion. My question now is, what have you exercised under your full discretion to reduce the recovery pay to ensure that, we still have the financial capability of continuing the operations? And that's basically what I'm coming at. Or is your position that you want the board to act on something?
I would like the board to act on it, to either, change the policy. We've been following the policy. We have put people to normal working, which they don't receive premium pay. We do have, I feel strongly that our staff repairing, over 100 leaks a day. I don't think that we want to walk away from that. I think this is an opportunity to reduce our non-revenue water, because right now is the time that we can see the broken lines, we can make those repairs. We've actually had John Tinger from EPA, Hallie from EPA, all of them here helping. That helped us in our efforts recovering without additional cost. So yeah, there's a lot of premium pay being paid. There's a lot that employees come to us and ask to be put on premium pay, and we have to deny it to help control the cost. And I've come in here myself on days and not even logged in. And I'm sure others, managers have done the same thing. They put in hours that's not being reflected. And, now I don't think it's my part to say, okay, we're going to eliminate the premium pay, because that was a policy set by the board. And I feel strongly that that should be a policy that is retracted by the board, if that's the direction we wanted to go. And we had that opportunity in the last board meeting, and it was, I thought, to go forward with the policy. It wasn't voted on to change it. We could have changed it that day a month ago and eliminated it. Yeah, you would have had disgruntled employees. Anytime we make it a policy change like that, we're going to have disgruntled employees. I think they're still, do the work. I know I would still do the work, and I know Betty would still come in, and most of the staff would still do the work. But there is a policy in place that was voted for the board and put in place by the board.
Okay, so let's just put this question to end. Mike, tell us exactly what the policy says in terms of, because I have a different opinion. I believe there's a policy in place, but I believe that when it comes to recovery pay, you have full discretion in terms of how you run the recovery. It's not us. Now the question is are you exercising your full discretion in terms of making sure that we do the recovery, but at least at the same time making sure that we are aware or cognizant of how we're spending the money. Now, of course, people are gonna be disgruntled. I understand that, right? And of course, our people are doing a great job. But as the executive director and as the board, we have to make sure that the financial viability of this company exists, right? That's our job. And sure, it's a tough decision, you know, if we have to, you have to pull back and say, okay, because as you can see even with the CNMI recovery, there's questions about exempt employees. There's questions about, you know, who to call in, right? And do you pay on, like, for example, I know CUC has come off of admin leave for probably about 2 or 3 weeks now. Do we still have a substantial amount of people that are under the recovery pay, even though they're back to regular work? Or these are the questions that I need to know, because I'm gonna get questioned on this eventually, I know it. And I just need to make sure that we're on the same page here. Because my understanding is your discretion as to how long we continue the recovery efforts and how we structure the pay. It's not specific in the policy unless I read it wrong. So I don't think you could take the position that it's our current policy. I think
Yeah.
that the position is you as the executive director have to figure out how to manage this recovery and how to manage it in a manner which is financially viable for the corporation. And whether people are disgruntled or not, you know, unfortunately that just comes with the job, and you just have to deal with it.
And I went to Israel, who is, you know, guiding us on recovery and FEMA. He stated that all the employees doing recovery work will be reimbursed up to when we have 80% power restored. That's how they define how long that premium restoration pay would be. If we, you know, if we were healthy and fiscally, then it'll be foolish to stop, because once we stop, then that's not eligible for reimbursement. And then the regular salaries won't be reimbursed. So, and we're not at that healthy state though. So.
Good point exactly. We know we're not financially healthy. So the question is
And
where we're expending money.
And we've been, you know, advocating to get that 50% upfront, which we haven't yet.
Again.
And we don't know when we will get that, or if we will.
Kevin, I hate to say it, but you're arguing my point. Exactly. We don't know if we're gonna get the 50% upfront. You know, even if we qualify for the reimbursements, we're spending money right now. We're spending money on premium pay, we're spending money on GPA, and who knows what else. I'm sure that we're entering into contracts and we're probably buying stuff for the recovery. My question is, right now, you know, do we have the financial capability to absorb that? And if not, what are we doing to make sure that we're cutting back on those expenses?
And
I don't need to know the back end. I know the back end.
We have gone to EPA and Judge Carter, and they gave us permission to borrow from the PFAS and to $8 million to pay premium pay for water and wastewater. It won't pay power, but it will help cover that, defray the cost for that, and we'll have to pay that back. But that would give us, that will buy us some time. And for the other infrastructure expenses that we incur.
Questions from the board? Yes.
Sorry, did you say you went to EPA and got permission to use
Yes.
some of the new?
Yeah, we had to change, we did an amendment to the stipulated order.
The judge approved it. I'm sorry.
No, it's fine.
Chair, no, I was going through the questionnaires that you gave to the management, and I wanted to ask Kevin, how do you define what work receives restoration pay and what work is normal work is? I want to see the comparison for the restoration pay. Do you consider those people that are in the office the same restoration pay as those employees that are out there in the field under Dr. Sun? Do you give them the same restoration pay?
the employees that just came back, they were on admin leave, paid admin
This is
leave.
not where the employees that just came back. Those employees that started after the time. I know you have certain employees that are in the office that have been assisting.
And yes,
Do you give
and
them the same restoration pay as those that are out in the field doing hard labor?
not all of them. There are some that's doing their regular duties, that would not receive restoration pay. If they're doing restoration work and record keeping, and it's all, for, restoration, then they would. When we got office personnel assigned to the watering stations, they receive restoration pay. So we had that, we kept the watering station open. They're closed now, but we kept them open from 8 in the morning until 11 p.m. So those employees received restoration pay.
Okay, I know that our employees received their pay yesterday, and some of the employees had questioned their pay because they had started working from 6:30 up until whatever time that they end. However, there's still some of those employees that continue to question what rate are they being given. Are they being given that 2.5, 2.0, 1.5, or 1.0?
For it to be eligible, we have to have a schedule that gets approved by me. And each employee, it has to have listed their duties and tasks as it's related to restoration pay. If we don't have that, then no, they would not receive restoration pay. And we've been keeping meticulous records on that. And
Do you have an idea, a number of how many employees that are working in the office compared to those that are out in the field? Do you have a list of those, Betty, like the number?
I think we can put it together, I don't have it right now.
Because what I'm trying to do, what I'm trying to see is that I want to see our hard-working employees are out there under the hot sun with all these conditions after the disaster. We can't really say that they are in the same boat. We have to give them that same pay. While the others are in the office where the aircon is, they can sit down, they can eat whatever time they want to eat. But those employees that are out on the field, they have little time to try to get some rest. Why? Because they want to try to finish the restoration as soon as possible. So I want to try to see if you're considering those employees that are out there and not put them on the same level.
we are, yes.
And I hope it doesn't happen. Because I know in the past it has happened, Kevin, where the employees that are in the office, they're free to roam about, do whatever they want to do, go on their phone or do any errands, while our hardworking personnel are out there. They do not have much time to go and assist their families. Why? Because they're assisting the community. So I hope that with the restoration pay, no chair, we have a difference in those categories. That's what I want to see.
We did have some office employees that we called in to assist on the restoration duty and all the paperwork. As you know, the paperwork is key on us getting any reimbursement. And so those employees, they gave up admin leave, they came in, and yes, they will be getting restoration pay, and they got restoration pay. Now, some of those same employees are on regular. We've taken off the restoration pay, and they're doing their regular duties.
Okay, so those that are not on admin leave. I know you have practiced in the past flex time. Have you considered that as well for those employees that have no? I know the government is exercising that idea where it's compensatory time instead of restoration pay. So have you thought of that instead of giving restoration pay?
No, I haven't, because that, I feel, will be a board decision and a policy change.
So no flex time is considered
No.
at this time?
And I think would be the wrong time. Again, the employees are out there repairing leaks. And yes, they are in the hot sun and they're going 150% above what their normal duties would be, and they deserve that restoration pay. And pulling them off prematurely would jeopardize the long-term financial stability of the
I'm asking
CUC.
for the office employees, for those employees that are in the office.
They are now back to normal duty. They are not receiving restoration pay. They
So
are.
no overtime pay, nothing at all? Should their work hours
Well,
require them?
on an overtime pay, if there's overtime during a normal time, they would get overtime pay.
That's what I'm asking. Can we consider flex time for those overtime? I know in Rhoda you did practice that at one time. I'm not sure if Saipan and Tinian did, but now we are in a critical financial condition for those employees that are in the office doing office work. Instead of giving that OT pay for them, can you consider flex time at least a number of hours so it can help the corporation?
Personally, I do not like flex time because that puts a burden on someone else. And if you don't need that employee, why even have them employed? You know,
This
if
is
they
the
work
work
overtime and
day
they get time and a
overtime
half flex time, you're taking one step forward and two steps back. So the work isn't getting done. If we need to, you know, if we don't need that employee, then why have that position?
Okay, so now you're stating that the flex time is not really your idea.
I don't,
Okay.
I've never liked to practice flex time.
So I hope that the managers would adhere to that and not use that flex time on the employees.
Right.
Should the employees work after their hours.
And that's how I've directed the managers, not to especially force flex time on the employees.
Like I said, we are really in a critical financial condition, so there are other options that we look at them. I know we have done cost-cutting measures, but I think this is the time we have to do more. We have to do more.
So, Director, I agree with you totally, but at the same time, I do agree with Kevin. I don't think if we're gonna implement flex time, that might have to be a board decision. The question, though, is under your discretion, simple example. How many people currently are still on recovery pay as we sit here? Or, since we're no longer on admin leave, is the majority of our staff back to their regular pay?
Yes.
And they're not capturing any recovery pay?
Yes.
How about management? How are you dealing with management? How are you dealing with the exempt employees?
Well, the exempt employees are still receiving flex pay, or not flex pay, but premium pay. They're out in the trenches with the employees, and
So there's no way
making-
we could schedule around that they do not qualify for that? I mean, we've got 80 hours, a pay period. Could they not be scheduled within the 80 hours to do their management job so they would not qualify for? Again, I'm not trying to take any money out of anybody's pocket. But again, when it comes down to people questioning us on our finances, we have a senator sitting right in front of us that, we're knocking on their door to assist us financially in so many different ways. We have to do our share internally.
And one of the options that we wanted the board to consider, exactly for the exempt employees, is exactly as you said. They wouldn't get premium pay for the first 80 hours, but that they would get, if they need to come in and work until, 2 hours more, then the premium pay would kick in for that.
Yes, so-
But that's, again, that's not how the policy is
Well,
written.
Kevin, unfortunately, we see things differently. So from my standpoint, as a board member, we try and stay out of management, right? We don't want to micromanage you guys in terms of how you run it. Our policies are set up to give you the discretion to do it the best way you can. But at the same time, we're relying on you to exercise your discretion. Now, if you don't want to exercise your discretion to be labeled the bad person to cut back management's premium pay, then I don't know. Maybe we could ask the board members if they want to entertain it. Do you see where I'm going?
Yeah.
My position right now is you have all the authority right now to pull it back. You handle the scheduling, right? You handle who's going to be in, when premium pay stops, when recovery stops on certain areas. So unfortunately, the way our policies are set up, and we have the policy right in front of us, it's fully under your discretion. So it's not a situation where you send it back to us. It's a situation of you exercising it. And if you have to understand that your role is not just the recovery. Your role is also the financial side of the corporation and making sure that you can find some way to balance both of them. And that's what we're going to hold you to.
Okay.
So the question right now, and obviously I don't know what we pay on premium pay, but eventually it's going to come out. We're going to see it. And we did send some questions to you that you need to address. I'm not going to tell you what to do. That's on you. But obviously later, when we see the effects that your decisions have on the company, then we'll address it at that time. But the biggest question is we're 1 month into the recovery, right? And the question is how much recovery pay are we still doing, and who's receiving it? Now you read the news, right? They're not paying exempt employees on the CNMI side. They're not paying exempt employees on CPA. There might be something that you look at. I'm not telling you to do it, but I'm telling you that you should look at all avenues. And if I'm going to be, again, everybody likes the word vilified. If I'm going to be vilified from our management, then so be it. That's my job, and I really don't have any problems with that. But I will hold you accountable to make sure that you do make the right decisions to ensure that we are financially viable. And if you have to make the tough decision to say that, okay, I'm going to schedule all of my management within 80 hours to do this recovery effort, which I believe can be done, so you don't access premium pay or recovery pay, then, something to look at. With that, any other members?
I just wanted to
Sure.
concur with you. Like, the exempt employees are exempt, and that's the bottom line. If they work 90 hours, it's 90 hours, and you get paid for 80. That's just the way exempt works in the US DOL realm. So nobody's complain. Yeah, they might be a little bit upset, but yes, the lack of scheduling and just trying to keep them to 80 hours would be the most viable solution to that.
Any other members?
I agree with Don. That's my understanding on exempt employees. But at the last meeting when we had this issue, I thought we were supposed to get some clarification, and we never got any of that. So where is that?
So on the last meeting, it was a little tricky because the situation that we had on the last meeting, and I'll take full responsibility, I kind of did not read the policy in its entirety, and I thought that the policy was in place in order to how we pay premium pay and recovery pay. But then going back and reviewing it closer, I found out that actually the only policy that's in place is that the executive director has full discretion in terms of how he runs his recovery. So given that, and then the second issue that we had on the last meeting was we wanted to know what they're doing in the CNMI government to maybe consider whether we match it. Now that took a while because in fact just last Friday was when the governor actually put out the memo in terms of how he's going to handle the pay for people who are called in under admin leave for the accepted service employees and even the civil service employees. So we never made a decision at that time. But I think at the same time, it was clear to management that this was a concern to us, how we're going to fund this recovery. Betty gave us an idea of how much it would cost us. We all thought that that amount was ridiculous, and we'd have to find some way to reduce that amount. So obviously, we're going to want reports to know exactly how much we've been spending, and in all honesty, we're going to break it down, and we're going to look at different categories and see how much are we paying the exempt, how much are we paying management, how much are we paying the admin, like Director Miranda said, and how much are we paying the linemen. And we're going to break it down, and we're going to analyze it, and that's going to be a direct reflection, Kevin, in terms of how you personally have decided to structure the recovery of this, this event, and how to fund it. Because you can't have it both ways. You can't say that I get full discretion, but then when the tough decisions are coming, then I'm going to shoot it back to the board. You do one or the other. And unfortunately, right now, the policies are set up that you have full discretion. So you have to own it. And, and then we're going to assess it and see how are you addressing it. Now, again, I just want to caution you because, like I said, I'm doing the exact same thing for Tinian, so I know the process very, very well. It's one thing to say on the front end that you got this memo that says that our recovery efforts are 100% reimbursable for the first 90 days. I get it. It's a whole nother ballgame in terms of finding out whether you captured all the data to make sure that we got every dollar. And that's why I caution you. Don't put that on the table right now. Put it on the table when we get our first reimbursement and we find out if we actually, get reimbursed for all that money.
You're exactly right. And we, as Betty pointed out, we haven't recovered from usage yet. We also haven't recovered all of our grant funding. And a lot of that is the method that is being used here for years. It's antiquated. They manually input the hours of every employee on the engineering side, and then it goes to the accounting side, and they do it again. Before the typhoon even hit, I was signing for reimbursement of $500,000 from 2023 and 2024. And I questioned that. I said, why isn't this already, why does it take now, 2 years later or 3 years later? We signed some more this week for about $500,000. And there's software that is in market that will help us expedite that. It's not that expensive. And I'm researching that now and asked my management team to bring it to the table so that we can do this. I called the accounting team into my office and our engineers. And the engineer said, first time I've seen this. And so then when the accounting came in and they said, yes, Kevin, we have to, it's taken all these years because every employee's name and hour every day has to be manually entered multiple times to get that reimbursement. When software can do that for us.
Okay.
But we just don't have that software. I want to implement that. And we have to go forward with that. So, yeah, was the interest on that, $500,000 from 2 years ago. It's actually not just $500,000, it's in millions and millions of dollars. We front all those costs up front, and then the EPA reimburses us.
Right, but again, my issue is given the fact that we never could control the reimbursements from whether it's EPA or FEMA, what have you. Obviously, we have to make sure that we manage our cash flow on the more conservative level. So let me ask this question. Have you ever, within management, and again, I'm not going to tell you guys what to do, but given our current cash flow situation, have you ever thought about deferring premium pay or parts of it, like we mentioned in the last meeting, if that affects our cash flow? I'm just curious where you're on that position.
Yeah, I think that would be an option that we should put forward. I don't think it should be mandatory for all employees to defer, but we should put that forward as an option to defer. I'm willing to defer mine. I know Betty's willing to defer hers.
So, unfortunately, one person here, one person there is not going to affect the impact of that. It would have to be more of an overall decision. And of course, you in your role as an executive director would have to present it to us. It's not going to come from us down to you. Because again, this is your ball game, right? You got to take the lead on this thing and figure out how to maintain our current financial situation while you're going through recovery. If there is a situation that you have that you want to bring to the board, then bring to the board, and if we need to call a special meeting, we will. But all I know, and I don't want to belabor this issue too much, but I just want to end, and I'll let the other board members have their final say on it. But we do want to monitor this recovery pay as we move forward closely. Right? We want to get the details, and we're going to give it to all the board members to see it. And I'll just be honest with you. Some of the board members want to know how we're addressing exempt employees, how we're addressing senior management, and everything like that. Your ability to schedule where you put everybody within their regular work hours. Those are the things that the board wants to look at in terms of your decision, your management decisions, in terms of how to curtail the amount we're spending.
Yeah, and I think, we both interpreted that policy differently. And I would like to get legal opinion on, do I have the authority to carte blanche eliminate premium pay for exempt employees?
That was never the question. The premium pay policy is in place. The question is, you have the authority to determine the recovery plan and who's brought in on the recovery. That's your authority, not the pay. And Mike, if you want to jump in and give a real quick like I said, I don't want to belabor this, but I want to make sure that everybody's clear as to what your role is versus what the board's role is.
That's clear, the board has set the pay amounts and stated for emergency pay, which were passed, and restoration premium pay. It's quite clear that it's the discretion of the executive director whether it's required at all. If it is, should the executive director determine the need to continue restoration efforts, employees who are required to work restoration shall be compensated at restoration premium pay. So if the executive director decides someone is required to work for the restoration, they get the pay. The board has decided that. Who is working the restoration is entirely in the discretion of the executive director.
Can I ask a question on what you just said?
It's
So
exact,
if
I read it word for word
if
in the policy.
employee is working restoration, is it my discretion to pay it or not?
I don't
Because
believe so.
we are in restoration, period.
No, that's not how no. I think you got it wrong, Kevin. You decide who we bring in restoration, right? Just because we're restoring, if somebody from admin comes in and works their regular job, they're not in the restoration mode. They're doing their regular job. If you want to qualify that as restoration, then you got to own it, and you got to justify it to this board, because that's your discretion in terms of who you pull in.
What, for
Just because
instance,
we're quote unquote
okay.
labeling it restoration doesn't mean that everybody you pull in is in restoration pay.
No, and I'm not.
Okay.
I'll use engineers, for example. They do assessments, it has to be done. That's part of the restoration work. They are exempt employees. Can I ask them to do all these assessments and put a price of that recovery? For instance, the damaged reservoir that needs to be replaced. I just got a email from FEMA saying that we can't get restoration unless this engineering assessment is done and an estimate provided to them for a cost estimate. Well, they're exempt, but they're getting restoration pay because they have to do that kind of work. And it will continue. If I make a decision and say, okay, you're not getting restoration pay, although I'm asking you to do the restoration work, am I in violation of the policy?
The restoration premium pay only applies to those employees who are on a restoration schedule approved by the executive director.
Can I ask them to do restoration work and not be on a regular schedule?
The restoration premium pay only applies to those employees who are on a restoration schedule approved by the executive director.
So I'm a little confused here. So you got an engineer, you're going to call him in to do an assessment. Why wouldn't that be his job?
Why, that's just your job.
Right, that's their job. So why would we label it a restoration pay when they're coming in to do their job, which is to assess the situation? Why would we want to label it a restoration when they come in, you schedule them to do that work within the 80 hours, and then we don't have that financial burden that we have to deal with? I don't know. That's my thinking, and I could be wrong, but I don't know.
Even before the typhoon, things are being restored every day. Something's broken and something's got to be assessed and somebody's got to write up report. I mean, it's kind of like the same thing.
Well, okay. We might not be able to solve that now, but at least you know the board's concerns on this issue.
Okay.
And I would recommend you sit down, you think about it, talk to your management staff and everything. Our position is pretty clear. You have the authority, you have the discretion to call people in. Our position is if that's a regular job, then why would you have to label it as restoration pay? Make them do their job and make them do it within the 80 hours, right? Now, of course, they're going to be pissed off, and probably half of them in this room will be pissed off at me, and that's fine. I'm not worried about that. But what I am worried about is our financial situation. That's my burden. That's none of these guys' burden, right? That's our burden. You, me, Betty, and the rest of the people on this board. So unfortunately, we have to do what we have to do. And if it's not popular with our management staff, then so be it. But they are hired to do a job. And if we believe that that job is to do it regardless of whether it's restoration or not, then I think the position should be, and again, I'm not going to tell you what to do because this is on you, right? You have to own it.
And
make
I
a
will
decision.
own it, and
So sit down and figure it
but
out.
we also when I remove them from restoration, we also do not put it into FEMA to get reimbursed for their regular hours even,
That's fine.
okay?
I mean, we're not here to try and get money out of FEMA. We're here to get the thing back up and ensure that our financial situation. That approach, actually, I'm worried about. Because if we're thinking that we're gonna go ahead and front the money in order to be able to get reimbursements on the back end, which we don't even know when they're coming, financially, that's a very poor decision. And I don't support that, right? So
FEMA doesn't even cover the 80 hours.
Yeah, there's no way.
100% of
So we
restoration
don't need
pay.
to.
The first 80 is considered regular on our books.
Is what?
It's never recovered by FEMA.
Okay.
So let's just end this right now. Bottom line, figure this thing out, right? And by the time we get to the next pay period, I guess one pay period's over. We basically want to know what changes are you going to put in place from today moving forward.
Okay.
And we want to see some drastic changes. Because if we do not have to, and again, even if it's reimbursable, the issue is not whether it's reimbursable or not. The issue is, do we have the financial capability to pay it at this particular time? And unless somebody here in this table can tell me that we do, then we have to act accordingly, right? And we have to cut back. And again, if somebody says that I'm not going to work because I'm not going to get recovery pay, then let us know and we'll get rid of them. And we'll bring in new people. I mean, I'm not going to be held hostage, for senior management to threaten, management or the board that, they want to qualify for recovery pay. And we're beyond that. Our responsibilities are way above that. And if we have senior management that doesn't want to cooperate and help us get this corporation back in line financially, then let's move on. Let's replace them. Let's get new people, right? Okay. That being said, anything else, Kevin, that you have to report?
No, that's all.
Okay. All right, Betty, let's jump in and give us the great news in terms of financially how we're doing.
Okay, so the financial statements in the packets are for the month ended March 31st, 2026, in comparisons to the same year, same month in 2025. CUC's cash on hand as of March 31 was 48.6 million. Of that amount, 35.8 million and its restricted funds from grantors and local appropriations, ARPA, and award monies, including 16.1 million for stipulated order task and water O&M settlement fund, 12.6 million in customer security deposits. Although unrestricted, the remaining cash on hand of 12.7 million is already appropriated for payables, including Q1 repayments, contract obligations, purchase orders, encumbrances, and payroll. As of March 31st, net operating revenues was 43.2 million, while total operating expenses were 55.9 million, resulting in a loss from operations of 12.7 million. The total non-operating revenues of 8 million, CUC's change in net position is a negative 1.5 leaving CUC's ending net position at 185.2 million, slightly higher than the same period last year at 183.6 million. As of March 31, customer receivables total 58.7 million, which includes the little under 30 million for CHCC. And then government and residential accounts are the remaining, and commercial. Net metering reconciliations and payouts is ongoing after we resume normal operations on May 6th. And so that continues to be reconciled as of this day. We talked a lot about the storm and the impact. So just to not be repetitive, CUC's kilowatt-hour sales pre-storm was about 21 to 22 million monthly. At the current FAC, 24.5 cents revenue would have been about 8.5 million. Fuel portion of that at the current approved rate would have been 5.4 million, leaving non-fuel revenue at 3.1 million. Since we had no sales for 30 days and more than 50% of our customers are still without power, we expect revenue shortfall to be at least 3.1 million in non-fuel costs. Restoration pay for the last two pay periods totaled 1.8 million. That's not including regular payroll. With regular payroll for this pay period was 2.3 million, payroll with the emergency premium pay, which is called typhoon pay, is 1.1 million. Total of one, that's a total payroll. The restoration, the premium pay was 252,000 on the first pay period, which included the typhoon emergency pay. And the second pay period was 1.5 million, which includes the restoration pay. Next pay period, we're anticipating about 1.4 million, a little bit slightly down from this pay period that we paid this week, primarily because we took a handful of employees off the schedules. Total restoration pay incurred as of this week would be 3.1 million. CUC in negotiation with EPA and DOJ and presenting to the judge our situation, approved an 8 million loan against the settlement funds, which is about 12 million to date. So that 8 million is specific to cover water and wastewater restoration costs, including the labor costs there. But that is something we have to pay back.
Only water and wastewater?
Only water and wastewater.
And the payment plan is pretty aggressive,
Yes, the payment plan is 200 and
200 something a month.
230, approximately 233,000 a month, and over 3-year period. They did. There is an option to go back to them if we're struggling to pay it come that time when we start loaning against it. So our cash to date, based on April's numbers and not March, because we got some reimbursements from grants for labor costs that we've already filed in. Our beginning cash was about 13.9. We only expect about, sorry guys, 35% maybe collections to come in for the month, for the billings for the month of April. So that'll be about 2.8 million, 2 to 3 million. And this is not including the fuel portion. Total cash outflow would be about 15.8 for the month of May. 11.4. Because I made some adjustments to vendors that are not that we've negotiated payment terms. So we would have at the end of the month about 4 million left in our coffers. And that still does not include the fuel that we have to purchase at the end of the month. So we are spending about almost $9,000 a day on meals. And that's totaling up about 259,000 for the month. We are spending for GPA, their lodging, their transportations, the travel costs. Those are all upfront because United will not take a PO. Materials and supplies, we've already incurred $500,000 in just purchase orders for basic materials and supplies. Half of that would be due for payment in less than 30 days. We've committed for poles, $4 million for concrete, and a little 1.5 for wooden poles. We've negotiated payment terms for 60 days, so that's not due yet. We've negotiated for transformers, 1.2 million. Again, we've got a 60-day payment term for that. And these have been submitted to FEMA for the advance reimbursement of 50%. So we still got to fund 50%. The fuel cost to date of deliveries is 4.2 that we have not paid yet and are coming up, are going to be due at the end of the month. 4.2, that's not deliveries in the month of May. Those were deliveries before the storm. Heavy equipment rental, we are at $1 million so far. they will be requesting payment for the 30-day period coming up soon. So we would have to probably cough up about 350,000 of that amount. We have some generator rentals, less than 100,000. And then the fuel for those generators that we were purchasing in the beginning is almost $500,000, 491,000. The GPA labor costs based on the rates and the restoration rates, I'm anticipating to be $500,000 for the pay period. Again, that's just an estimate on my part using their rates and calculating. I don't know what their benefits are. So that is a little ballpark figure, but when we paid for U2, I kind of looked at that and then kind of did the math and used that to say, I'm sure they've gotten raises since 2018. I've compared a few people that are on that list to this list, and there were a good, almost like, if I divided it over 8 years, it was almost like 3-4% per year. So I did that across the schedule of the 2018 schedule to come up with this number, but it may be a little lower. We hired a consultant, a technical advisor, through the APPA to help with the restoration plan with the Kiza substation. At this time, the labor cost for that is about $98,000. He is returning this week, so that shortened the 30-day period down to almost 3 weeks. It would have been about $124,000. Facility, equipment, and vehicle repairs, so far $635,000. I anticipate about 50% will be asking for payments. These are small repair shops that would pay their employees. We have miscellaneous expenses of about $63,000. That is to cover things like rental for tents, for the water filling stations, the ice and the water that we buy, just stuff like that. Nothing. And so, based on what we've already committed to, it's about $15.8 million. I think 11.3 will be due to be payable soon, after deducting the concrete poles and the transformers and some 50%. It's really the labor that's high. Restoration premium is 3.1, regular payroll is 1.7. Meals for the crew is 259. Travel, lodging is about 70,000. That is for GPA and the rota crew and the one guy from APPA. And then transportation is the vehicle rentals, the vans, and other vehicle rentals that we needed to amend the shortages that we had at the power and water site. Totaled up 51,000. So I will fine tune this and then email you guys if you want to see that. But at this point, that's the best I could do for today.
So what's the total shortfall?
For this month, we'd have 3.9 remaining if we paid what we need to pay this month. But this 3.9 remaining doesn't cover yet other obligations. We have vendors that are following up on their previous payments. I rounded that up to $1 million, but we're still negotiating with them on some of them. We have the retirement fund, settlement fund that we pay $600,000. We have purchase power with IPP, that's $300,000. And we have an engine maintenance that's for parts and overhaul, that's about $520,000. It's a total of 1.4. So come June, we will have about $2 million left. Payroll is already factored in for the pay period that we're working this week, which will be paid at the end of the month.
No, I was
Yes.
gonna ask about that.
Yes.
Payroll included.
And I'll make the adjustments to deduct the water and wastewater portions and expenditures if we had to, just to record it, so if we had to take the loan. I prefer not to take the loan as much as possible, so, but I'll record that separately for water and wastewater. And that's why we were pushing, the distribution crew to get, and so for, you know, to get load on, right away. And, you know, I had to make them understand, look, we need load. You guys wanna get restoration pay, but we don't have load, we're not gonna get any sales, we're not gonna be able to recover, so you need to put load on.
But then again, Betty, if we do get load and without
Yes.
the increase in rate, then you're basically.
Yeah, and
we're
that's the
losing.
other thing,
Yeah.
we're still losing, yes.
But the fixed expenses are still there.
Yeah, the fixed expenses haven't gone anywhere, so the fixed expenses can put us under, but as we bring on more load, then we lose money faster. Cause we all know that we're buying it at 44 cents, and actually, we're not buying it at 44 cents, right, Betty?
No, we're now at 60.5
So we're buying it at 60 cents.
64.81, so,
60.5 cents, and then we're charging 24.5 cents.
yes, and that's less than half of where we should be.
Right.
Yeah.
So every time, so once we put back the power, we're just gonna go.
But in April 9, we wrote a letter to Department of Interior asking for some assistance. Has that gone anywhere?
We are meeting with Department of Interior tomorrow at 2 p.m. with the governor. 2 p.m.? Yeah, 2 p.m.
For what?
We're asking for some financial assistance, right?
Yes,
For the impact of fuel.
correct.
The impact of fuel and.
Yes, that's on the agenda for tomorrow.
For tomorrow.
Yes, so we'll know more. A big concern is that, even if the rates don't go up this month or last month like it didn't, right? There's going to be a fuel reconciliation. And at that point, that would determine the additional rate that would have to be added back in to recover 100%. So this is just delaying the inevitable, because that would be a bigger impact. If the rates are still high at 60 cents and then you gotta recover under recovery, that's gonna bring the rate up when it, yeah. So, you know, this is, it's not gonna go, we'll recover it one way or the other, but it would be down the road. And so, you know, it's just a matter of stretching out these payments, because it should be recovered if it's done properly. And that's just delaying this rate. And if the rate never goes down, then the under recovery is gonna add on to that and make it even worse at that time. So, you know, that's something just to mention at the CPUC meeting tomorrow.
So here's my recommendation moving forward. I mean, unless someone could tell me otherwise, we are seriously in the crisis mode financially. And I know that we're in the middle of recovery, but we have to address this head on. And then we have to talk to our other stakeholders.
Yes.
Right? We have to talk to the administration, we have to talk to the legislature, we have to talk to CPUC. Everybody has to get in on this, because it's funny, we talk about all these other issues, but if we go broke and we can't operate, then all the other issues are secondary, right? What's premium pay when we can't even keep the lights on for our operation? I want to task the director and, of course, Betty. We'll call a special meeting next week, if everybody's available, to focus only on this situation of finances. Let's get down to the numbers. I mean, what Betty basically said to us today is, as everything's going today, we're going to be broke by June. And June's just next month. So, now, again, we understand that we got a little bit of money from the PFAS case, but that's not free money, right? We've got to pay that back. And I agree with Betty. Once we engage in that, then we lock in a guaranteed payment plan. And, you know, that puts even more burden on us.
It's limited to wastewater.
And it's limited to wastewater and water and wastewater. So let's put all this on the table. And guys, Kevin and Betty, you guys got to come to us and say, this is what the recommendation. Now, if it requires board action, then we'll act. If you guys could do it on your own, but I can't imagine that there's anything that's a higher priority than this current situation. And then yeah, you call FEMA and see if we're going to get our advance. You call, you know, the GAR and see if we're going to get our U2 reimbursement, and you know, you just look under every rock and see what's going on, because when we present this to the board, and Riley, you figure out a date for us to have a meeting. We have to meet, we have to know exactly where we're at, and then we have to go and meet with our stakeholders and inform them of the situation. You know, it's gonna be negligent on our part if we just all of a sudden go belly up and we don't, you know, at least give our stakeholders, you know, advance warning of what's going on. I don't know. I just can't see it. And you can see in these financial statements, you know, the amount that we pay for fuel versus the amount that we collect on the FAC is a $3 million difference. I mean, that in itself just shows that we're upside down in almost everything that we're doing right now. Now, again, we could argue that we don't set the rate and we petition for the FAC, but the truth of the matter is until the FAC gets adjusted, then, you know, we have to operate with what we have. And so Kevin, I think you and Betty and the management team needs to get together and put together a crisis financial plan to present to the board and figure out how we're going to move forward. And I can't imagine that there would be anything more important than this. Okay. Any other questions or comments yet, Miranda?
I'd like to ask our CFO, what is the status of CHCC's monthly payment plan?
They make their April payment last week. The May is due, but they always use their grace period.
Is that the under 50 grand?
Yes, 150, and that's so the reserve account for the generator is at 750,000.
Okay, so here's a question. Mike, do we have to petition? Was that an order to set that reserve, or could we access that account?
It wasn't in
I know the
an order.
CPUC asks about it all the time,
Mhm.
so
They want an update. Yeah.
it may be in order. I don't know if it was actually in writing, but I think my understanding is that at least former Chairman Cyrock really was pushing that.
Right.
So I don't know if it was an actual order.
But I think things have changed, right? I mean, we have this recovery, and I mean, well, let's be honest. It makes no sense sticking $750,000 in a generator fund where we know we can't buy a generator with the amount, and then we have cash flow problems on the back end.
I think we'll see tomorrow how amenable the CPUC is to CUC regarding the recovery.
But to do this, find out if it's an order, and then find out if, in order to get access to the money, do we need to petition for it, or do we have the authority or discretion to just access it? And then let us know. And discuss that with CPUC tomorrow. Let them know the situation and say that we want to have the ability to, it's our position that we want to access that should we need those funds.
I recall it to be a resolution, but.
Was it? But I'm wondering on CPUC, it was an order for us to set that money aside.
Mr. Chairman, can
Oh,
I
yeah, go ahead,
jump in here
Simon.
for a second?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, no, it's a very, very difficult situation that you're all facing up there, and I feel very bad about what's having to happen. But at one level, with the PUC, for example, I'm wrestling with how they can deny the facts that the fuel recovery charge is not sufficient to recover what we're being charged to pay for fuel. Is there an active petition? I know we petitioned and they said no. Is there a process that is happening tomorrow night that we have the ability to go back in and Betty and management show them, hey, look, you're gonna close down the ability to provide power to our community if you don't allow us to charge the rate necessary to pay for the fuel. It's no different than when our ratepayer drives into a gas station. They have two choices. They either pay the higher fuel or they run out of gas. And that's just an unacceptable position for the PUC to put the CUC in. Is there an active petition that we can resurrect, or we can have them reconsider, where they can at least grant the raising of the rate? I can appreciate that raising the rate is a horrible situation to propose to ratepayers, but you got to start plugging the holes, right? You can't be charged $5 and only have $2 in your wallet, especially on a going forward basis. Is there an active petition with the PUC? Do we have to regenerate it or have them reconsider it? Because I'm at a loss as to why they can even deny the rate hike as if when you drive to the gas station, they don't see that the cost of oil is higher. Where are we on the PUC's ability to reconsider their decision on our rate?
There was.
That's the first question.
Remember, this is Mike Ernest. My understanding is that there was no actual action. Management filed a petition in front of CPUC in March, late March, to raise the FAC for April to 44 cents. And that is on the agenda for CPUC tomorrow. There has been no filing for the 60.5 cents because management has not instructed legal to file it.
Can we get that done quickly?
Oh, okay, so but we at least have the petition for the 44 cents.
We do have the petition for the 44 cents, but I'm kind of curious why we haven't filed for the 60 cents. Because I thought that was automatic.
I thought we filed it.
No?
We didn't file it?
No one instructed me to, you all sent a letter stating that the FAC was going to remain the same absent any action by the CPUC. You informed them that the FAC should be higher this month than it was last month.
Wasn't it, we asked, and then you said you would come in and do one, because you never did it before. But you'll go ahead and do it.
Okay, so I think it
You never sent
obviously has
me
not
the
been filed.
documents.
It would be Tina to send you that, because we didn't open it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, if we,
Well, whatever,
we should just file it.
if there's if there's a process, yeah, for an emergency filing to update them, as of right now, this is the reality. And this is the shortfall. And if you don't grant it, we won't have the ability to buy fuel beginning X month. I mean, I think that's the analytics that have to go to the PUC, at least to get that piece of the puzzle in place, right? We got all sorts of other challenges because we don't have all the ratepayers online. But as we're saying, it doesn't make sense to put them online if we're going to keep losing money and we can't buy, we're going to get more people online by June and then we can't buy fuel because we don't have any money. I mean, that's the PUC's got to understand that. And I think we're singing to the choir, but I think the urgency of getting the petition right and the numbers in front of the PUC ASAP and almost force them into a decision. I think the PUC law says if it's a valid expense, they can't just ignore it, right? And I don't know how you ignore fuel. So that was one piece. And then the only other thing I was wondering is, like GPA, you're accruing our expense. You're not going to get a letter from us saying pay us next week. We get it. So with the different pay challenges about emergency pay, restoration pay, are we able to accrue that expense as it's owed to our employees, but not pay it, and then have that kept as FEMA eligible or eligible for reimbursement, or do you actually have to pay it and then ask for the reimbursement? It seems in this situation, given our financial position, it's something we tell our employees, we're not going to pay, we're going to pay you what we can pay you. Maybe it's just regular pay, but we will accrue the expense for emergency recovery, and that will be paid to you when we get that money back from FEMA. If that's allowed to where you accrue it, but you don't actually pay it, or does FEMA require you to pay it in full in order to get reimbursed?
So Simon, great question. I'm not sure that the answer to that, and we'll have the management look into that, but I agree with you. I mean, what I'd like to do is I'd like to see how long it takes to get reimbursed for the first premium pay that went out. I mean, and then we could gauge the time, the processing time, because we know that we've already paid twice, right? We paid the typhoon pay, and then we paid the, I guess, 1 or 2 recovery pays. I'm assuming that we're already submitting that for reimbursement. If not, we should submit it immediately, and then we'll see how long it takes for us to get reimbursed. And that should definitely make management recommend to us whether we should defer the other payments based upon our financial situation. You're right. If it's accrued, it's accrued. We owe it, but we have to take a look at the cash flow side of it and whether we pay it now or whether we pay it later. But we'll get that information for you, Simon, and I agree. Well, let's find out whether we could accrue it and then ask for reimbursement, and then when we get the reimbursement, we pay it, or when we get a better financial situation that we pay it, or we pay it slowly. Again, I don't think many of our employees will complain that they're not going to get their recovery pay and then they don't have a job, right? I mean, obviously you want your job first, and then recovery pay would definitely come second.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. Those are just the only 2 things I thought about was the insistence on getting the fuel piece done correctly through the PUC, they can't ignore it. And then the ability to accrue expenses, management has to decide who qualifies for what kind of pay. But
Right.
once that number is determined and enforced, then accrue that expense and pay that out when we get reimbursed, if that's allowed
Okay,
by FEMA.
all right, we'll look into that. Definitely,
Thank you.
absolutely. Thank you, Simon.
So there's instructions to file the fact rate today,
Okay,
correct?
absolutely. Unless management will have a reason not to file it, but absolutely. I mean, we know what the amount is. We do it every month. If the new fuel price requires this rate, it's our job to file it. And then we send it over to CPUC and we go in front of the CPUC and we defend the petition. Any questions, any other questions for our Chief Financial Officer? That being
I would like to also report that Tinian's prospective solution right now is that they're bringing in generators from Hawaii to be able to power up the island of Tinian. I think the distribution side is ongoing right now, but I think it's also not too complicated from the assessment reports. We are sending some bucket trucks there and another company with 6 more line crew. And if we have to send some from here to assist, because there'll be 4 bucket trucks there. I know that's in the plan in the next week or two at the most. But in discussion with FEMA or the U.S. Army Corps, we put on the table as to who's going to purchase the fuel. So usually if it's their own generators, then they want to use their own. And I know that they're also going to power up the old IBB, which is now under the Department of Navy. So they're negotiating that right now. It's ongoing. And they're thinking that the Navy might want to provide the fuel themselves because they have their own contract for those generators, which is probably a good thing because we don't want to be the one fueling it and something goes wrong, right? So we just wanted to put on the table that possibility that if they provide the fuel, we incorporate that into our fuel savings, and then we'd be able to perhaps lower the rate a little
Absolutely.
bit for everyone.
Right.
So is there any objection to that? Okay.
No, I think that's fine. If we can get them to provide the fuel, then I think we should definitely adjust the fact petition for the amount that we're not paying for fuel.
So, because you're good, the people at Tinian might think that they shouldn't pay for the
Right,
fact
right.
rate at all, but we
Well,
have
they're definitely going to think that.
Yes, and we have one rate for all islands, so I wanted to know that's because when we get back with FEMA on this, they're going to ask us what is our methodology and all that kind of stuff. So if there's no objection, we're going to stick to the way we incur fuel costs, and we pass the fuel rate across all 3 islands equally. Now, if they have objection to that, then we'll come back and let you know, like specifically FEMA or the Navy or.
Who's providing the generator?
It would be FEMA's generators or UMass, the Army Corps. I believe it's FEMA's generators.
So the question would be whether they would provide the fuel, and if they do provide the fuel, can we adjust the fact petition?
There are 3 engines at the old IBB Voice of America facility, which was leased now to Department of Navy for their training facility. So with our generation staff and a couple of the technical advisor that was here, they went to Tinian for a few days and looked at the engine and what needs to be done. And so they're going to they need to do a few things like put some relays on the system, because right now it needs to backfeed, so it's going to turn from a distribution to a transmission, and then feed that into the villages of Tinian. So in addition to that, because it's only up to 2 megawatt, but they're only going to run one at a time, and the other one becomes like a backup, is that they're bringing in about 2.7 megawatt from Hawaii. That's going to be situated at the power plant and simultaneously would distribute power out to the community. So there'll be about 3.7 megawatts at any one time.
Approximately when?
We met yesterday. They asked us if we approved of it and all that because of all the logistics and where to situate it. We told them, yeah, we're waiting. And they said you know, they said, well, you know, this is like, takes a lot of work. We got to work with the Navy. We got to work with the fuel contractor, all that stuff. And he said, you know, it's not easy. It's like making sausages. And he says, so, Betty, do you agree? And I said, Tinian has been waiting for their sausages. So they're like, okay, good. We're going to go with it. So Kevin told him he had no objection to the plans. And so it's going to proceed already. It's proceeding right now. So.
Okay. Any other questions for the Chief Financial Officer's report? If not, I'm thinking that we'll take the legal counsel report. If you guys need to go into executive session, and we'll do that at the same time with personnel matters, because I know that we have some issues that have to be discussed in executive.
May I ask clarification?
Sure.
So there was no decision on restoration pay, but you asked us to come back and present the finances.
Right.
But with restoration pay, it's still with the discretion of
It's still, okay, so the decision on restoration pay is, from our reading, it's your discretion, it's the executive director's discretion, but we will scrutinize it on a payroll basis. I mean, we really,
You want to
we
break
want
it
to
down.
see exactly what we're paying for, and then we want you to justify how that decision was made.
Okay.
And we're gonna go into deep detail, so just be prepared. So the question about exempt employees, the question about, you know, are we still on premium pay? Why? You know, is there a problem with scheduling our management in the regular 80-hour jobs? You know, and I think we all heard the financial situation. So at this particular point in time, it will be very, very difficult to convince this board that all efforts should not be given to finding a way to get out of this recovery pay. I mean, let's just be perfectly honest. We know that we still are rebuilding,
Yes.
but we know that we can't afford it.
So
So
when we
we've got
brought,
to get out of it.
when we went back into resuming normal operations, obviously the restoration is still ongoing.
Right.
And everybody out there is still under the heat and burning.
Understood.
So, you know, I would go to bat for them at any time and say that, you know, they need to earn it. But when it comes to maybe, let's say, management and or admin people, whoever, who, you know, that are not field or operation crew, during the period that was not normal, we did not resume normal operation. That's the directive that the government also came out and said they'll pay the admin. So basically, the government is paying ×2. And that's our restoration rate here, 2 ×2. And so taking people, you know, right after the storm, we weren't even cleared yet to come in and work and all that. You know, I don't see any issue other than the finance, right?
Okay.
So it's either we defer it or we don't. And at this point, it's too late because
Right.
nobody wanted to defer on,
Right. That's fine.
on the first pay periods, except one person. So we'll move on. Now we have another pay period coming up, and we're going to give that option again, or we make the decision to either defer. Okay.
And you're gonna check whether FEMA can reimburse them at a deferred.
Yes, I did check. I did ask that, and they could. But when they do make the payment, if we're going to wait for the payment, they would have conditions like you got to pay it within 3 to 5 days, something like that. That's what I was told. So the thing is, we have a FEMA rep here, and everything is verbal, and I get worried about that because it's like it's not in black and white. And even the guard said, "You got to be careful because
I agree.
they go with what they know or an previous experience, but sometimes things change along the way." And that's my biggest concern is that.
So there's no estimated time as to how soon we can get it.
Correct. And we keep following up. So,
So I think it's a general opinion from the board that this next premium pay amount should be reduced considerably. Because I remember the first two that you said were almost the exact same amount. This next one better just drop right off the table. And I mean, we're talking about a fraction of what we're incurring. And you just got to figure out how to make it happen. Because my concern is making sure that everybody still has a job. And paying them for the recovery is secondary. But again, when that comes out, we will scrutinize how you made a decision to deal with exempt employees, how you made a decision to deal with senior management, how you made a decision to deal with admin, and then of course the people out in the field. And then that's the one that you're gonna have to come back to the board and justify. I think it's really that simple. But we will want that information as soon as that pay period comes out.
And so we don't want to change policy right now
So
for effective
again,
next pay period?
I don't think, okay, so if we're gonna change policy, we're gonna change in the manner in which we pay. But the current policy right now is his discretion in terms of the recovery plan, who he brings in and how he schedules them. Now, if you could bring in people and schedule them to do the recovery work where he doesn't have to activate recovery pay, then obviously that's what we
Yeah.
prefer.
I think that's the pushback that he's gonna get from
From our staff?
managers too, yeah.
So why? I mean, what's the pushback to have our managers come in and do their job? Right? And what should we do? Should we line them all up here and have them explain to us, you're an engineer and you need to come in and make an assessment and you can't do it without recovery pay? I'm missing something here. Right? Supposedly they're all professional. Supposedly they're all exempt. They understand how that process works. But just because we have this policy that gives you the discretion, and then they're gonna, I don't buy it.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I don't buy it. And if the problem is all our managers have a problem with that, then we got a bigger problem. And then we'll get the board together and figure out how to handle our managers. But this is, I mean, absolutely not. I mean, for me, it's gonna be really hard for you to come and convince me that, you know, all the managers are complaining that they want their recovery pay, they wanna still stay under this umbrella of recovery pay because they could get reimbursed. Well, if we can reimburse them immediately after the pay period, then that's a different situation. But nobody at this table could tell us when they're gonna get reimbursed, when CUC is gonna get reimbursed. And I guarantee you, I'll line up all the managers here and they're not gonna be able to tell us, right? So yeah, great, I get my nice recovery paycheck, I go off and I've done all this work, but, so what about the company, right? So unfortunately, I don't buy it. I'm not sold. And if you're gonna sell me on that, I don't have any problems lining everybody up here and let me hear their case. And if they can't do the job, their regular job on regular hours, then let us know and tender your resignation. Let's move on, right? Why would this be such a difficult decision, given our critical situation? Now, like you said, Kevin, if we're flush with cash and everything like that, like possibly it was you two, that's a different scenario. But this scenario, our current financial situation is driving this. And if our managers don't understand that, if our managers don't understand that their job is at stake right now because we don't have the cash flow, then obviously the messaging is not going out right. I think you guys need to sit down with the managers, message that to them, and let them understand it. And if they still have a problem with that, then bring it to the board. And if we have to let them go, then let's let them go. And let's find new people, people who are willing to work with us. But I am not going to be beholden to our managers and their issue about, oh, you know, I don't want to participate in the recovery because I'm not getting recovery pay. I'm sorry. I just won't buy it. All right? Other than that, any other questions? So we'll do our legal counsel report together with our typhoon policy. We're at 11:20 right now, if I'm not mistaken. So we'll break at 12 o'clock. So we have about 40 more minutes. Let's go into old business, and I think a lot of these have been addressed, so I think we could go through a lot of these a lot quicker. Fuel adjustment charge reconciliation, I have to assume that thing's still pending. This is our petition for the long-term reconciliation, right? Do you know if it's scheduled for, with CPUC to entertain it on tomorrow's meeting? I'm probably guessing not, because that would be secondary to the FAC increase. This is the past the FAC reconciliation, right?
Yes,
Okay.
correct.
I believe it is.
Is it on the agenda? Okay, great.
So.
All right. So we'll see what happens with that. You guys can report.
It's been on the agenda for a while.
For a long time.
so it's
Yeah, I know
old
that.
business.
Status of report on reconciliation revenue.
Yeah. So you
Status
know,
of report.
unfortunately, we're getting all of these things that are just backing up, right? So we have the FAC at 44-cent petition. Then we have the FAC that's coming out at a 60-cent petition. You got the base rate petition, and then you have a situation of the FAC reconciliation. So yeah, it's all getting piled together. I mean, it's an incredible impact on our people. Our job is to petition based upon our operating expenses. We have no choice. Put the petition and just let us know how it goes tomorrow. Net metering policy. Did we suspend the net metering or the, what is that stuff, to pay back the during
We
the,
are still,
during the
No,
recovery?
we're still working on it.
Oh, we
In
are.
fact, checks will go out this week.
Okay, great.
It's been already accounted for. And they continue to reconcile, so we'll be routing.
But Betty, we're almost done with this, right? Because it's a finite amount, right?
Yes, the remaining accounts actually don't have credits, so we
Oh.
don't think there'll be any check payments, but we still gotta reconcile it anyway.
Okay,
So, yeah.
so basically no financial impact.
We are in default of an order on that,
Okay,
and I have a motion which will be heard by the CPUC tomorrow to give us an extension of time to finish all the reconciliations.
okay.
We'll see how amenable they are.
Because of the storm.
We did file the motion before the typhoon, and then the typhoon happened.
Right, understood.
And then, what is the status on the NMHC? Credit. Remember
the
those
credits.
no credits?
They did, said they would get back to us, but
Nothing.
I've not heard, maybe they were waiting to address it at their board level. And then the storm hit, so,
And that's
um,
part of this net metering too.
yes, so we did most of them. But we've moved it aside now to put it separate from the rest of the recon so we could meet the deadline.
This is the back thing.
Okay. Oh, okay, that's it, right. Okay. So moving down to old business, letter D, I'm assuming that we're tabling this
Sorry,
issue
Chair,
because,
this net metering policy has to.
oh,
do with
I'm
the-
sorry, government and CHCC receivables.
No, on B, the net reading policy that's on the agenda is actually, we're trying to change the current, the way the law is written so that we could lift the moratorium.
Oh, okay.
I think that's what
Do
we're.
we have something to present to the board to act on today?
I think it's management that has to finalize the review. I think that Mike prepared it, right?
Yeah,
And
bill's
he
been
said, yeah.
drafted,
So give us time with this
Okay.
one, but yeah.
But let's prioritize that. If we could get that
Put
thing
that
through,
in.
that would be great.
Okay.
So that would allow homeowners to go ahead and avail of solar?
Yeah, and it's the way it's, because of the other policy was maybe perhaps too generous. There was, but it has to coincide also with the rate case that allows for standby charges on,
Understood.
yes.
Okay.
I mean, they were already doing it even with the moratorium in place.
But that would require legislation, Betty, or just a board action?
I think it would require legislation.
Okay, then that's fine. So we'll draft the law and we'll present it to the legislature. Okay. Government and CHCC receivables?
They're basically correct.
We touched on that, right? Government and CHCC receivables?
Yes, CHC is still trailing a little bit, but they are making their payments, a little late. And the government, right now, I am concerned that their budget for fiscal year
27?
27 is only inclusive of $2 million, I believe,
Yeah.
yeah. That is a big concern, yes.
Yeah.
But for the
Be
power,
interesting.
they are mostly on prepay, so it's getting paid.
Right.
It's the water and the wastewater side that's accumulating now.
Yeah.
I'll talk with Kevin more about it. I'd like to propose how we could put it on their prepay as well.
Okay.
Yeah, eventually.
Old business E, status of proposed bills. Mike, I know that we have quite a few. You want to just give a quick rundown as to what we have submitted up to the legislature?
I just forwarded 3 today to the Senate Legal Counsel at the request of Chairman McGoffin. One is regarding the $20 million in claimed fines that DPW alleges that CUC owes. One is in regards to the public auditor fee, and one is in regards to the CETA dividends. And the last 2 would be to dedicate those streams of income to generator purchases and also create streams of income which would look better for any lender. I know CUC is going to be borrowing because of the storm. And if we have, all 3 of these bills are designed to get us our balance sheet and our statement, our numbers, I'm sorry, I was an English major, the business money numbers looking better for a loan. If we have $20 million less in outgoing expenses and 2 dedicated streams of income coming in, we feel that would be a better rate, that we would get a better interest rate, and that would be ultimately better for our ratepayers. So those are before Senator Goffna's committee. She did instruct us that there would be a meeting of her committee next week or in the next week or two regarding the back billing bill that passed the House. And so I think management should probably be instructed to attend and to express the corporation's thoughts on the bill, which generally were that the bill required revision. And its presence form would be disastrous to the corporation. We have the net metering revision bill done and just ready for management, either to present it to you or to the legislature. And that's the status of the bills that I have.
The management already approved of it. We were waiting for Chairman Perez to give the green light, if we can send that to the,
Let's send it.
okay.
There you go.
There's green light. But we also have, we've submitted the proposed legislation for lending, right? For us to borrow?
That's a mic question.
That was sent. Speaker Villagomez's attorney Comstock has reviewed it and made changes, and it's out of our hands.
Okay.
I did not get any sense that they were. I got the sense that they were looking at it. I don't know if it will be introduced or if there will be any traction.
Okay, but at least we pushed it up there. Now we just have to meet
Did
with
that
them.
bill require the guarantee of the government?
No.
Yeah. I mean, I wish we could put that in there, but, and that would definitely strengthen the bill. But that would be up to the, the legislature and the government to decide on that.
We can ask them to put it in, but that was not in our draft.
I'm sure the governor will be doing that part.
So we just have to make sure that anytime the committees meet, for management to be there, you guys know the impact with any of these legislations, whether we have them or whether we don't have them. So make sure that you guys are available to go up there and participate in the committee meetings.
Yeah, Mike, can we let us know?
Yeah, definitely. Let the board members know, and any board that's available, it'd be great if you could go up there and represent.
Yes, support it.
Because we just don't want a situation where they call a committee meeting, nobody shows up, and then they go ahead and pass it. And, I think that happened with a couple of the previous bills. But I think things have changed a bit now, and they're willing to bring us in, and so we can at least tell how it would impact CUC.
This is not proposed bill, but since we're talking about redirecting funds to Gen 6, I'd like to just put on the table for the next discussion that I really think we need to have an emergency fund for typhoons. I
Yeah,
think it's
yeah,
happening
totally.
too often. Yeah.
Yes, totally agree.
Something that we could do.
Totally
Quick,
agree.
yeah.
I'm 100% on board with that. I definitely think we need to
Right
do
on
that.
that, the idea of insurance also. I know it's gonna cost us, but
Yeah, that's a good point. I'm assuming that we're self-insured for everything, Betty?
Yes.
But that's interesting to think
I
about.
don't even know if we're self-insured.
Yeah,
Nice
probably not
word.
even that. The only question that I have, Mike, and then we can move on, is the situation that we're borrowing money from the PFAS, does that require CPUC's review or anything like that, or is that all within our discretion?
I think it's technically our money.
Okay.
And it's just that we're under a court order on how to use it. So
I don't see why it should be.
No, I just want to put it out there, and if we all believe that it doesn't require it,
having said that, CPUC has very recently and
Yes.
consistently expressed its thoughts that it
Should be.
has, if not to be consulted on all of these things, it maybe has say over all of these things. So it's difficult for me to give you a concrete answer
Judge
on that.
Carter already gave us
They do
specific
have it on
orders.
the agenda tomorrow.
Yes.
they do have that particular issue?
Not the
Oh,
loan,
okay.
but how we're spending the.
Oh, okay,
money.
okay,
Yes.
then, good, then they
Where?
could discuss that. Just so we don't have running into
Item
problems
I.
later.
It's the last, it's the last agenda item,
Okay,
Ah,
It's
so
7.
that's next.
L.
gotcha.
Why?
I know, it's.
Okay, so the fuel adjustment charge, I'm assuming that that's the petition for the 44 and 60 cents, right?
Yes.
And I
We
think
have one, we have one for 44, we do not yet have one for 60.
But I think we all went ahead and agreed that we're gonna go ahead and
Yes.
file the petition.
Yes.
Today.
Okay.
Today.
Typhoon policy, is there anything else we need to discuss in typhoon policy aside from the recovery pay policy? Was there anything that management wanted us to address within, I think that's the only thing that we address, and I think it's the board's position that we're not gonna change the policy. It gives you,
At the moment.
at the moment, right, at the moment. But if you do wanna make a recommendation to change the policy, let us know. But it's our position right now that you have the discretion to do the recovery plan. We just wanna make sure that you do it in the most conservative way possible, so you don't jeopardize the company in terms of our financial situation. Okay. Personal matters, we'll hold off on that until after lunch when we go into executive session. So we'll go down to old business I, consideration.
I'm sorry, there's
I'm sorry.
Consider,
Yes.
I,
Did you want an update for D, update for hotel power generation?
Sure.
I had a quick update for the board. I've been working with the engineering team, on revising what was previously an IFB, but we think that now an RFP makes much more sense. And we've had a nice sit-down meeting, very productive, where we went over all of, legal's concerns and how to strengthen the RFP. And so that was completed, and I turned it back over to the engineers to finalize the RFP, solicitation packet. To send it back to me one last time for my final scrub and legal review. That all happened like a few days before the typhoon, so that's obviously not high priority for engineering right now. But whenever the recovery efforts have put the islands in a more stable condition, I imagine they'll finalize that RFP solicitation packet and send it back to me for final review. So we're making progress.
Okay. So, I'm just trying to wrap my head around the concept here, and somebody who knows more about power generation, jump in. But this is basically a situation where we possibly could buy power back from the hotels, right? Who run their generators?
So a lot
Is
of
that
the
the concept?
hotels have, my understanding is that a lot of these hotels have these like really nice, big, powerful backup generators
Right.
that they don't even use most of the time because most of the time they're hooked to the CUC power grid. So it would be an agreement between CUC and, whatever hotel wants to enter into the agreement CUC for, if there was ever an emergency situation where there's an island-wide power outage, or even when CUC just needs to take its own generators offline to do routine maintenance and repair, that CUC would be able to kind of basically rent these backup generators from these hotels in order to, keep everything operating and going while CUC deals with the emergency situation or the routine repairs. It's nothing crazy. It's
Okay.
just basically a rental agreement with hotels to use
I
their
guess my only
backup
question
generators.
would be who would buy the fuel?
It would be CUC. The hotels would essentially be selling power from their backup generator to CUC at a rate that is agreed upon by both parties.
It would be
Can
similar.
I ask you a question on that?
Go ahead, Simon.
Okay.
Go ahead,
So
Simon.
in Guam, we pay them to get off the grid, and use their own power, right? And we reimburse them for capital costs. There's a formula for, we pay them because they have a generator and they're consuming fuel. And there's a rate that's been established or an agreement for reimbursement, but we pay them to get off the grid so that the power that is available from GPA, or in this case CUC, that power can be dedicated to those that need it, and you're not having to power the hotels. So that's a little different, where we pay them not to be our customer by being handling their own power. That reserves power that we do have for other customers that don't have power, and that's a little different than buying power from them. And I kind of understand both concepts, but I was just curious: is it better for us to say, look, just stay off the grid, so whatever power CUC has can be delivered to other people, or do you need them to to stay on the grid and then turn on their backup generators and sell us power? I'm kind of a little confused. If they're on the grid, then they don't use their generators. They're using ours. If they're off the grid, that reserves the power from our generators to go to everyone else that needs the power. How exactly are we thinking about that?
Yeah, Simon, let me speak on that. One, I think we need the revenue to keep them on the grid. And the thought was that because our power generation is critical to a point where if we lose some power, we could have brownouts. And this would help us have the ability to purchase power from the hotels like we do with a Greco, but we wouldn't be, forced to. But when we want to take a generator down for maintenance, and if we're at a critical state, that we wouldn't shed power or, ask them to go off, because paying them, that's even a double negative for us, because we'd be paying them to stay off the grid, and we'd also be losing the revenue that we need from them. So what our thought was if we need the extra generating capacity, that's the purpose of this RFP or IFB.
But the power we're buying from them, we're turning right around and giving it back to them because they're a customer on the grid. So how much net energy do you generate from this approach? If they stay on the grid, you're giving them power, right?
Yes.
From us.
So but they also have a backup generator that they would benefit by running it and be able to sell that power to us. But yeah, they would still be buying power from us as well.
So they're gonna, so they stay attached to us on the grid, giving CUC power. Then they turn on their generators and send that energy back to us. Do you have a switch that can do that?
Yes.
Receive and
we can make that connection. Our engineers have already looked at it.
I mean, I'll defer to you. It just seems to me that if you want them as a customer, but then you need the power to serve them, and so you buy generation from them to give them back the power you're selling back to them. Is there a net gain?
Yeah,
Director Simon, the contract would be just on an as-needed basis. It wouldn't be CUC running their backup generators 24/7 the way CUC does with a Greco. It would literally just be for emergency situations like this typhoon here, and for when CUC needs to take its own generators offline to do routine maintenance and repair. Most of the time, CUC is not going to make use of the hotel's backup generators, and most of the time, the hotels will just be using CUC power grid like normal. This is really just anticipating emergency situations.
I understand that part, that it's a temporary, I get that part, but I guess if they stay on the grid, you have to give them power.
Yes.
And then you want them to turn on their generator to give you the power that you're giving back to them. Why don't they just stay off the grid?
Yeah, on an as-need basis when the power is out.
And Simon, you might recall that we tried to purchase 3 generators because we were in an emergency situation. That hasn't improved. We haven't added generators. We haven't been able to add those 2 generators to Saipan and one to Rhoda. And this gave us a different avenue or a different approach where we would have a backup if needed on an as-needed basis.
Okay, I mean, I'll defer to you. You feel it'll increase your generation power. I'm kind of missing a step, but anyway, I think if you all feel comfortable with it, please proceed, because I know you need generation, right? And if there's a way you can work out a fair price, and I'm not sure how you determine all of that, and do you have to get that price approved from the PUC, or is it something you can work out internally between you and the hotels?
Well, the way it stands now, everything goes through CPUC.
So even if you would have to get this agreement with the hotels to be approved by the CUC and then the PUC?
Yes.
Seems like it's easier to tell them to just stay off the grid so you can reserve your power for everyone else. But anyway, I'll defer to you on that. I'll defer to you on that. Thank you.
Thanks, Simon. Okay, so we'll have one more issue to address before we break for lunch, and that's going to be old business, letter I. Consideration of bylaw Article 5, Section 1D2, and HR Rules 7.5 and 8.2. And I think, Mike, you're going to present.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So what we have is a split between our HR rules, which were promulgated more recently, and the bylaws regarding the Personnel Committee.
Yeah, it's good.
The HR rules say that the Personnel Committee's decision is final. The bylaws say that the Personnel Committee only makes a recommendation to the board. And those are completely 180 degrees different, and they're quite confusing. When I first got here, I looked at that for about a week and couldn't figure it out. I do know that the later in time was the HR rules, but the HR rules cannot affect the bylaws. The bylaws have a mechanism by which they cannot be changed by the mechanism which the HR rule was passed. So what I have before the board for the board's consideration is 2 draft resolutions. One amends the bylaws to conform with the HR rules, which would amend the bylaws to say that the Personnel Committee decision is final. The other resolution is the exact opposite. It would amend the rules to read what the bylaws say, which says that the Personnel Committees will make a recommendation to the board. It's whatever the board wants to decide. There are reasons pro and con, which I will get into if you want, but I think the board knows what they are. Legal has no opinion which is the right course, but legal does have an opinion that the board does need to make a decision on this. It has to choose, it should choose, respectfully, it should choose one or the other. Right now, we have both, and that is not appropriate. If the board chooses to amend the HR rules, it can do that today. That just takes a resolution. If the board wants to amend the bylaws to say that the Personnel Committee their action is final, it can talk about it today, but it has to take the final vote at another meeting. It has to have at least 10 days before the board, and there has to be it has to be discussed in at least one meeting first. So that this would be the first meeting discussing it, and then the final adoption of the resolution could happen at the next meeting. So that's the issue.
So just so all the members are aware, we've been through this issue many times, and I think it's come to the time that we just have to make a decision. And like what Mike said, there are arguments for both sides. On the committee making the final decision, there has been questions as to a 3-party committee, which 2 people can vote one way and make a decision, and that will basically make a decision for the entire board. On the flip side, sending it up to the board, a lot of times the board they don't participate in the hearing, so they don't have all the information, and they just, based upon what's discussed at the time when the committee presents it to the board. So there's pros and cons for both of them. I think, I'd like to ask, now if the board members are ready to make a decision on this, we can go into discussion and then we can make a decision. But I'd like to open it up for discussion, and then hopefully we can vote on this as to which direction you want to go. Any members?
I think I would rather have it in a draft form, what the options are before we
Okay.
discuss that.
I think
They're in the meeting packet.
I think we do have the draft form.
I don't know how to open it. I think I'm gonna go Miranda's route. Honest to goodness.
Miranda, do you have a position one way
Save
or
the
another?
trees.
I mean,
Yes, I do.
Okay.
I know that with the personnel committee, we have limited number of members.
Correct.
But with the board, we have no majority numbers. So I would recommend that the recommendation come from the personnel committee, and the entire board reviews it and makes the decision. That's my recommendation.
Rebecca, any thoughts on? I mean, I think a lot of us are kind of indifferent, right? I mean, it's almost like a 50-50 situation. So I think we're ready to decide one way or another, because I think a lot of people, we've seen it both ways.
Right.
And I think recently we've always sided towards letting the board make the final decision. There were questions on some of the things that maybe all the board members didn't have all the information and didn't actually get to sit through. But then again, like Miranda said, you know, it is the decision of the majority of the board members, not just a few. So, I'd just like to know if anybody has a position to support what Miranda's saying, contrary
Change
to
the
it.
personnel committee to be the whole board.
Oh, gosh, you know how hard it is to get the personnel committee together to hear an appeal? That was hard enough.
Yeah, that was a long time.
I don't think the
I
entire,
mean, it's gonna go to the board anyway, so we might as well just.
At the recommendation of the committee, right?
right, and for the entire board to decide? So if that's the position of the members, Mike, can we act on that today, or is that the one that we have to change the bylaws and do it on the next meeting?
You'd be making it so that the personnel committee merely makes a recommendation to the board.
Correct.
So that would be amending the HR rules. That could happen today,
Oh.
and there is a resolution.
Oh.
Maybe Riley could print it out, or has it? I don't know. It's in the, what?
In the meeting packet, it's in everybody's online meeting.
Yeah, it's in the meeting packet. I just don't have a printer.
Can you do it without it? Because you only have bylaws.
It's and rules.
Oh, there, I didn't see that.
002, board resolution.
There's two alternate resolutions in the meeting packet.
Resolution. Okay, so if you go to your meeting packets, I think it is drafted as resolution,
HR rules.
HR rules. We saw it for a second, right? Does everybody seen it on the packet? Okay. Okay, so board resolution number 2026-003.
I may have to change that number.
Okay,
Yeah, they're both 003.
Yeah, they're alternate.
yeah, I mean, we're only gonna approve one, whichever. So I think we're looking at right now, the board resolution 2026-003, a resolution to amend the human resource rules of the Commonwealth Utilities Corporation relative to the Personnel Committee. Does everybody see that?
That's it.
I believe that is it.
We may need to change the number
That's fine.
and the date.
Alright.
The members
So
could-
this first one, the personnel committee has the final decision.
That's
right?
the other one, right.
That's amending the bylaw.
That's amending the
This
bylaws.
is 003.
They're
No,
both
so-
003.
They're both 003 because we're just gonna pick one of the
But
two.
there's either you guys choose to adopt the personnel committee.
And that was the
or
resolution
HR.
number
I
when I
know,
did
I'm
these.
trying to articulate my computer.
It's
Okay.
the shorter version.
Okay, the shorter version is what, it just sticks, the personnel committee is the final. The board doesn't have to vote on it. Right? It doesn't need affirmation from the board.
Yeah, that's one way.
It's
That's for
gonna-
discussion here, and then we approve it on the next session.
Right.
Right,
No, that's the first draft, the shorter draft.
okay.
Is that what happened?
I don't have the drafts in front of me, but yes.
Okay.
One of them changes two HR rules and one of them changes one bylaw.
Bylaws.
The shorter version is the
So
bylaw.
the numbers updated, it'll be resolution number 4.
Okay,
Just as number 4.
okay.
So this should be 4, right?
Yeah, so it'll be resolution 2026-004. The narrative stays the same, it's just, we're just gonna change the resolution number
And the dates.
and the dates. So basically, this is the one, if all the board agrees, we'll then have the personnel committee make a recommendation to the full board for final decision on any personnel appeals. And we can still discuss this further, but if everybody wants to go in that direction, if you wanna move forward, I'd like to ask for a motion to entertain this, and then we'll go into discussion.
Is that under your motion?
Okay.
So can I ask for a motion, ask for a motion to adopt board resolution number, and we're gonna modify this, 2026-004, a resolution to amend the human resource rules of the Commonwealth Utilities Corporation relative to the Personnel Committee, and we would then also change the date of this to be effective today. And if I could ask a board member for a motion.
So moved.
Okay, it's been moved and has been seconded. So up for discussion. Any other discussion regarding this issue? So again, this is basically the decision that we would have a personnel committee meet and address the appeal, and then that personnel committee will then present it to the board for final decision. Basically what we've been doing for the last couple ones. So the procedure is pretty much the same, but like legal said, we have conflicting bylaws and regulations, and all we're doing is basically, if we agree that it's going to be the same way that we've been doing it, then we're just going to, clarify the situation. So if there's no other discussion on the matter, no other discussion, then Riley, let's go ahead and call the vote.
Vice Chair Ronald Brown,
Yes.
Treasurer Russell Martinez,
Yes.
Secretary Roseman Seward, Member Rebecca White,
Yeah. Yes.
Member Miranda Mongolia,
Yes.
and Chairman Alan Perez.
Yes.
And yes, unanimous vote.
Okay, with all members voting yes, the resolution 2026-004 hereby passes. Mike, the next issue? Were there two?
No, that's it for the bylaws issue.
Okay.
It's just personnel matters?
Okay,
For
so
old
the
business?
personal matters we will address, so it's 11:53 right now. If there's no objection from the members, I'd like to call a recess. We can go ahead and break for lunch and reconvene at, what time is it now? 12:30. That's fine for everybody?
Yes.
Okay, so Riley, we will go into recess. It's 11:53.